Hello, welcome back to the Spiritual View. Today we're going to talk about mediumship. We're just going to have some questions answered and try to keep it narrow to the topic. Sorry to start
It's kind of a huge topic, and I was actually really kind of like, oh gosh, how are we going to talk about this? Because I can't really define mediumship. First of all, like, what does it encompass, and how do you talk about it? Like, what does mediumship mean to you?
So a lot of people, there's a motorcycle in the background,
Yeah,
just in case for anyone that noises. So there's a lot of people get like psychic and mediumship confused. So what people need to understand is that mediums are using the same psychic senses that an intuitive person would use, a psychic person would use, but they're encompassing that at the same time they're raising their vibration, and spirit is lowering their vibration or slowing it down to meet in the middle, hence mediumship.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense.
Yeah, so you're using all those senses, but at the same time, on a different level, you're increasing your abilities to meet with spirit and communicate with them on a different level.
And it's interesting because there's so many different, if you look at all like professional mediums, there's so many different mediums doing it differently. And as a developing medium myself and trying to research how other mediums work and what their beliefs on how to develop are, I found that there's a lot of discrepancy among professionals. They all have their own unique way, their own unique understanding of what's happening. And that's just because it's a really subjective experience. It's a really subjective science, if you will. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think whatever works for you, if it works for you, stick with that. As far as looking at like mentors or people to follow, you just have to kind of trust in what feels right and who to like listen to and what resonates
as long
true
as
for
you're
you.
honoring spirit,
Yeah.
as long as you're honoring the souls that come through and you're respecting them, then I'm okay with it. You know what I mean? Just make sure, obviously, do what feels right to you, but make sure you're listening to people and following information that respects the entire, like the gravity of the situation. It's so important, and it's so emotional and spiritual, and just they're our loved ones. We're connected to them, so we want to respect and honor them, and there's ways to do that, and to make sure that gets done in the right way, in the most validating way.
So we hear a lot about like psychic mediums, and then we also hear about trance mediums.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to explain the difference?
My understanding is that there's some people that have a lot of fear around the word trance medium.
Oh yeah, totally.
And it does sound invasive, but so a medium is just someone that is literally receiving information on some level with spirit that is no longer living anymore. Although some people call mediumship channeling guides too. It's just like meeting in the middle, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just really communicating with unseen entities like loved ones or spirit guides or animals, whatever you do with your work. Trance mediumship is more like channeling, which is like merging and blending with the spirit or entity you're communicating with and allowing them to use your body as their way of communicating directly. So you'd be saying exactly what they're saying, you may sound like them, you may have different mannerisms, you may become their personality. I feel that a lot when I'm merging with spirit and communicating with them. I find myself saying sayings that I would never say, or having thoughts in my head that are like not at all like myself, which is great because it helps me discern that it's not me doing it, it's spirit. And that's what helps do the work and know that you're doing the work. And so trance mediumship is really just becoming the person, really fully blending with them. Whereas you can be a medium and communicate with them not completely merging with your energy. You can allow them to communicate to you as I would communicate with, someone's sitting next to me, having a two-way conversation versus having like an embodied one-way conversation. That's how I see it. And I do see professional mediums doing it differently. So some of them are merging, some of them are maybe not so much. They may be merging a little bit, but not fully. It just depends on your personal boundaries. I believe it depends on how much you're comfortable with. I don't think that spirit will do anything that you're not allowing. And so in no way is it scary. People think it's scary, but it's really, if you are open and allowing it and you have a container that you're holding it in, it is not scary work. It's actually very healing work, I think.
It's interesting when we were talking about another spirit coming in and working with you. It's a very conscious choice, though, correct? Because I'm thinking about, when somebody goes and gets drunk or like is on some kind of substance, there is kind of a trance mediumship that happens there as well, but it's not one in which you have much control over.
I think you have.
But you have the choice of drinking alcohol.
Right. That's. But what happens after that?
Right. It's interesting for me with mediumship because I was having experiences and encounters with souls, trying to communicate with me, and at the beginning I didn't understand that's what was going on. Mm-hmm. So I didn't have control over the situation, at least at that time, because I didn't understand, like the complete story as to what was going on. Mm-hmm. So you still may have experiences and interactions because you have this ability, but at the beginning you might not be as aware of it, so you might not have as much control as you could. But as you start to learn more about it, then I think that yes, you have more control over what's going on. But what I studied about it was
children. Like I believe that like the majority of children are sensitive and aware to spirit. Mm-hmm. Like before they can even talk. And it seems like they kind of grow out of it, and some people stick with it, and some people it comes back later on in life. And that's not necessarily a conscious choice. It's like an innate ability that I believe we all have. And so it's an innate ability that we all have that we either choose to embrace or shut down and then choose to reopen again. Whether you may, on a human level, be choosing it, or your soul might be like, oh, it's time to explore this reality.
Right, yeah, right. Yourself.
So there's it's more than just like a choice or no choice. Like I think there's a lot that's kind of involved in the background of it. Mm. But for the most part, you can choose whether you want it to happen or not, and control the environment a little bit more. For sure. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's a huge topic.
It's a huge topic. Another thing with mediumship that a lot of people do is they talk about spirit on like, in general, like as a generalization, kind of use the word spirit when you're talking about a collective group, right? But really what you're doing is you're having a soul-to-soul conversation. So I think that's a really important difference to make because it also personalizes it and it makes it a little bit more comfortable for people in a way because a lot of people it can be scary. It's just the unknown, not understanding, it's just kind of it's a weird feeling. You feel a little uneasy with it. And so if you think about, you're literally just having a soul conversation with another soul. It kind of just puts a little bit of a positive perspective with it, and it's just easier.
And it's interesting, as a medium tuning into the soul, sometimes you tap into like their true deep soul self, and sometimes it's very much like their earthly, experience and personality that you tap into. But it's interesting how each individual soul that you connect to connects in different ways. It's like their evolution and their spiritual journey impacts the communication also. it's not just the medium's evolution that's allowing spirit to come through. It's like it's very much like having to bridge that gap between where they're at and where you're at. And I've communicated with some spirit that's really easy to communicate with, and they give me super detailed information, and they're just really good at communicating on the other side. And maybe that's something they were good at it here, but they weren't aware of it. And then there's other spirit where it's like maybe they were completely like closed-minded to this, but yet they're wanting to connect with their family, and it's a little harder for them to communicate and come through. And as a medium, it's just something we have to acknowledge and accept is that it is a soul-to-soul contact, and each soul is different, and so communication is different. It's not an exact science, like some people that are skeptics are like, well, I want you to give me specific, date and time I was born and like information, and it's like it doesn't work like that, and we're not in control of the conversation in the first place. They're coming in to have a conversation that they want to have also, so we're really just like the speaker, and they're like talking to the microphone. It's really how I see it.
Yeah, no, that's very true. It's a good analogy because we're definitely just the vessel of information. Like they come through because they have something that they would like to tell you, or maybe there's a little bit of unresolved business that they need to relay that would help the evolution of their soul on the other side, so.
And that's almost always about healing the people that they left
there's
behind.
always, the whole contact in general is always because there's some healing that needs to go on with the people involved. It's always about healing, it's always about moving forward. It's just connecting.
It's giving people permission to move on and release and let go of any hurts that they have because of.
We don't carry any of that with us when we cross over anyway, so that they don't want us to continue to hold on to it too.
Yeah.
So, yeah, mediumship is it's so deep. It's more than just talking to another soul that's crossed over. It's like you're the evolution that our souls go through. Like we're connecting with all of that. Like it's just such an interesting experience, and it still blows my mind every single time that it happens. Like I'm still like, whoa, I can't believe it just happened.
Like if you've ever been a recipient of a reading. And it was a really good reading. You kind of leave, like people that maybe didn't believe in the afterlife leave with a completely changed viewpoint on life and realize there's something to, like passing on and still existing on some level. Because what mediums can do, it just shows that we don't disappear when we die. That there's a continuation of our soul. And it's really, really interesting on how that kind of changes people's whole life perspective when they experience it. And that's the part that I love the most. It's really helping to expand people's perceptions and awareness of life. Because when you realize that having such a short lifetime doesn't feel so constricting anymore. It's like, oh, there's more. There's more. And we're still involved in the lives of our loved ones after we pass away, too. It's like what I always see and hear is that their relationship to us after they pass on can be even deeper than it was here in the physical realm because they're not limited in the physical dimension. They're able to really be a part of our lives in a way that's really big. And unfortunately, a lot of people are closed to seeing it and experiencing it, and so they're unaware. But a lot of times they try to communicate in ways outside of ourselves because we're not opening up to it within, or we have too much pain from the passing or that person's life that we're not able to connect with them. And so they give us signs and symbols like, butterflies and dragonflies and hummingbirds or little things like that. A favorite song that you knew about that comes on the radio, that's how they'll try to communicate with you too. So communication happens, I believe, to everybody, but it's just a level at which they're able to communicate, whether it's an external environment or if they're able to do it within you and work within you.
Well, and also if the person is
wanting
able to receive it.
Yeah.
Because they can send you signs and symbols all day long, but if you're not being aware of your environment,
or don't believe it,
and don't believe it, then they're, but the more you're aware, the more you'll receive. So
yeah, it's really fascinating when you open that door. What comes through? If you give permission. for that experience. Those doors throw wide open.
Thank you. Okay, well, so we're gonna do another video on mediumship,
Or several.
We're still figuring that out, but we'll do another video that'll focus a little bit more on maybe the mechanics and the fundamentals of mediumship and like readings and stuff. So there'll be more information to come on this topic. So if you're interested, stay tuned. And thanks for joining us today.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you. I would like